So I've been in contact with my daughter's spirit, her soul, about 2 years before conception, and I feel like so many powerful souls are coming in now, and more people are having these experiences, and I just really felt called to share my journey in that and my story in that. Yeah, maybe if you're feeling a little crazy, this will make you feel a little less crazy. So yeah, hey fam, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Marai. Thank you for being here with me. Today I just wanted to film a really simple sit around the fire story time type of video. So grab your cup of tea, maybe a meal, um, whatever floats your boat at the moment. And yeah, I just wanted to speak to my journey of just connecting to my daughter's soul before conception, and how she came into my life, and the guidance that I received from her, and how much she was actually part of my journey in the last 3 years. And I really felt called to share this because when I was going through it at that time, I didn't know anyone who was going through this. And at some moments I felt really a lot of mistrust in the information that I was receiving and what I was feeling and sensing and seeing. And in some moments I thought that I was maybe going a little crazy. And so I just wanted to share this video and share my story in case you're going through something similar. And I hope that you keep trusting your intuition, trusting what you feel, trusting your senses, and yeah, trust the guidance that you're receiving. So growing up, I often was surrounded by the narrative that children are a burden. And I was often, hearing that you should live your life, that you should not have children while you're young, because once children come, it's like this whole heavy weight of responsibility and chores and, like all these things. And so, first of all, I was just deeply conditioned that children were the opposite of this incredible blessing and enrichment in life. And not only that, when I was about 19 to 21, already my whole childhood, I really struggled with my mental health, and that's maybe a video for another time. But yeah, basically when I was 19 to 21, I just went through the depths of the darkest times of my life. And I was just having panic attacks every day. I was just extremely anxious, depressed, suicidal, substance abuse 24/7. It was a really difficult time, challenging time in my life. And I think when I was going through that, at some point my prognosis was really not looking positive, and so I basically wrote off to ever become a mother. I promised myself that I would never become a mother because I never wanted to put my children through an emotionally unstable or unavailable mother, and I completely lost trust in my ability to be a mother and basically care for someone. And so I basically promised I would never have children, and it was really heartbreaking. I think I never realized just how heartbreaking that was in that time. But then in 2020, I started to ask life, how best can I serve? And the moment I asked that, life was like, okay, like you're ready. And I started to receive my vision, and I started to receive guidance and messages through my dreams, and I started to see things in my inner vision and hear things and hear messages. And just honestly, at that time, I felt like being bombarded with information that at that time to me didn't make sense, and I didn't want to trust it, and I just was so disconnected from my intuition in that sense. And there was such a mistrust, but life came in and was like, okay, you're ready to uncover your purpose. Well, like, you gotta first heal. Heal your things and face all the things that are standing in the way between you and your purpose. Through a series of synchronicities and visions, I basically found myself in a plant medicine journey, and that's a video for another time as well, because I have so much to say on that topic as well. Looking back, would I ever go back to plant medicine? No. But at that time, I was just so deeply guided there, and basically, in one of them, I sat with myself and I went through just the deepest of inner child healings. I basically met my inner child for the first time, and she was so deeply neglected and so scared and so untouched by love. And basically, I was just being shown flashes and memories of painful moments in my childhood. And at the very end of it, Spirit wrapped it up and was like, and this is all for your children. All the challenges you've experienced, this is all part of your purpose. This is all part of your journey into motherhood, basically. And I remember hearing that at the end and being like, well, I'm not having children. Like, what are you? I'm not having children. That's not the deal, guys. Like, I promised myself that I wasn't gonna have children. And basically from there, life just kept bringing me this theme of children. And at some point, around that same time, I didn't have my menstruation for about 3 to 4 months, and I started to have these sensations in my stomach or in my womb, and literally movement. And I just, nothing could explain it other than being pregnant. And I basically thought I was pregnant, and I went through this inner journey of basically surrendering to maybe potentially being pregnant. And that was just, I was met with the biggest resistance. Yet life just kept showing me, like, no, but look, you will be a beautiful mother. Look, you are so capable. This is what you would do with your child, and look how you would nurture this child and love this child and nourish this child. And basically, I was just being shown images and images and images of me taking care of this child. And at some point, I surrendered to the idea and said, okay, like, if I'm pregnant, I think I got this. And it was funny because then the moment I surrendered to that idea, the next moment was, oh my God, what if I'm not pregnant? I didn't take the test yet at that time, but I just kept getting all these signs that I was pregnant. And so I was quite sure I was pregnant. And the next moment, I realized just how heartbroken I'd be if I wasn't pregnant. And I think that was the moment that I realized that becoming a mother was so embedded in my journey, and actually how much on a really deep level I really wanted to become a mother. Basically, the next day I went to the gynecologist and she did an ultrasound, and she was like, nothing, there's nothing there. And I think when I received that news, I was really heartbroken, but then a part of me felt like I should have been relieved. I felt like I should be relieved. Why do I feel heartbroken? And so I kind of suppressed that heartbreak and grief and was like, oh yeah, that's good. I'm so glad I'm not pregnant. And I guess that's really when my daughter came into contact. And looking back at it now, I am so certain that her soul did pop in. It was like, Mom, I need you to get over this whole resistance with having children and trust yourself. And I think she popped in to kind of give me that pregnancy scare to come to that realization. That's really when she began to come into my life, and I could see her and I could feel her. Whenever I wanted to tune in, I could just see her like waiting, almost impatiently. She was like, Mom, come on, I need you to get to this certain place in your life, this certain alignment in your life for me to arrive, and like, come on. And I remember at that time, I would even know when I was with someone who wasn't the father of my child, and it was just so clear to me. It just felt like somehow he's not the father. And funnily enough, when I did actually meet the father, I didn't know that he was going to be the father, but I knew that there was something so deeply important for me in that connection, connected to my daughter's soul. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why I even went to talk to him and stayed connected to him. And but yeah, of course, if I had known that he was the father, life would have not unfolded the way that it needed to. And life always shows you exactly what you need to see in that moment for what needs to unfold, is what I believe, at least. And um, so yeah, that was basically what was happening. And just it was even to the practical details. Sometimes I would, at some point at that time, I was plant-based for 4 years, and suddenly I kept getting this message to start eating fish. And it was like my daughter was like, "Mom, I need your body to get ready. I need you to eat fish." And at first I felt really resistant to eat fish, because yeah, I had been plant-based for so long. And I felt good in that as well. My body felt good. It was doing really well. But then when I didn't listen to that message, I just started seeing like clouds shaped as fish. And this sounds ridiculous, but I swear, like my ex-partner would be sitting next to me, and suddenly he's like playing with his rice and he's forming a fish shape. And it was just everywhere I looked, it was like fish, 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 fish. And so I was like, okay, okay, okay. And so I started eating fish. And at some point, I started to see that I just couldn't not listen to those messages. And basically, at some point, I just remember one day I heard this voice in my head that said home birth, water birth. And at that time, I knew nothing about birthing, let alone conscious birthing. All I had ever witnessed was, hospital births on TV shows. My mother had a C-section. All the births that I had known had taken place in hospitals, as this very painful experience. And but when I received this message of home births, I started to research and look into Instagram accounts, read birth stories, and I was fascinated. And I was like, whoa, okay, like this is the kind of birth you want. And I remember at that point, I think this was about 6 months before conception, I started to follow so many conscious birthing like Instagram pages, and my whole feed was filled with like home births and like natural birthing and free birthing and all these things. And now when I think about it, it's quite crazy that all of that was happening in that way. And at some point, I think this was about 3 months before conception, I got this message to do this heavy metal detox. And I remember thinking, heavy metal detox, like where do I even begin to find what to do with that? And I remember researching, and there were so many things about also the dangers of heavy metal detoxing. And but then the next day, suddenly I was at a friend's house, and she brings out this book, and it's like, it just big letters says detox on it. And she just handed it over to me. I didn't even ask her for anything, and she just suddenly was like, here. And I remember opening it and looking into the table of contents, and there it was, heavy metal detox. And it was a really gentle, 100% natural, like through natural foods, like detox. And I remember just being in awe constantly. Like whatever message I would receive, whatever I needed for that would just show up. And yeah, and basically just the whole way until that point of, when she was starting to come down basically to earth, and preparing her journey here, I was just getting ready for everything. And I remember being guided to several different inner child healing things, and just really coming into spaces of confronting myself and in the deepest of ways. And as time got closer and closer to the conception, I just started to really feel her essence, feel her personality, feel who she was going to become. I could see her when she was 3 years old, and even this was later when I was pregnant, but I saw her when she's 21 years old, and actually I saw her signing her name, and that's how I found out what her name was going to be. And it's been such an incredible journey. On the 1st of January, I just saw her, and I heard her voice, and she was like, "Okay, I'm coming." And I remember just my whole body in panic because I didn't think that she would come so soon. I remember being like, "Oh my goodness, you're gonna come now? Like now? Life's not ready for you." And I remember talking to my then partner and my family and being like, "Hey, listen, this sounds crazy, but there's this soul and she really wants to come through and she wants to come now." And everyone just met me with this and everyone just looked at me and was like, "Right, this is so not the time." But I just felt it in my whole soul that she just needed to come through now. And at some point I found myself sitting in front of this channeler, incredible channeler, and also dear friend now. And I asked him, and I felt so scared to ask because I was still doubting myself and what I was feeling. And I remember I sat down and I asked him, "Listen, there's this soul that speaks to me, and I feel that it is my future child. And this future child has been guiding me the last years and wants to come soon. Is that true?" And I remember just the relief. It felt like I had been almost like ashamed of what I was going through, because I still felt so much mistrust in what I was saying and feeling. But when he told me like, yes, like that's really very true, and a really important message that day that he gave me was, "But listen, don't worry about how he or she is going to come through. Like everything's going to happen in perfect alignment. The stars need to be perfectly aligned for the date and personality that this child wants to embody, and don't worry about the timing." And that day I felt so much relief in my body, and I surrendered and I said, "Okay, my love, like if you want to come through, I trust that you will come through no matter what. I don't need to do anything here. I will even go through Immaculate Conception if I need to, if you need to come through." So yeah, that was basically the journey. And from there, every time I would tune in, she would just be there, and she would be traveling, and I could see this like ball of light traveling in the ethers and the spaces. And at some point I just remember seeing this blue portal, and it felt like she needed to move through that portal. And at some point I just had this vision of a baby landing on this beautiful pink lotus, and then from there it just became pitch black, and every time I tried to tune into her I couldn't feel her, and I almost felt like, what's happening? Why can't I feel her? Little did I know at that time I was already pregnant, and so that image of her landing on the lotus was her landing in my womb. And then when I found out I was pregnant, I went to get checked by a midwife, and the due date was 11/11. And yeah, I just flashed back to when the channeler had said she will come, or he will come in the most divine timing. And it just felt that way, and it just felt like a confirmation to trust the unfolding of that. And then yeah, just throughout the pregnancy, she was so part of that decision making of the whole birth as well. And at some point, through again just a series of synchronicities, I found the most incredible midwife to support me on my journey, and her birthday was 11/11, and she wasn't planning to take someone in November, but because things just felt so aligned, she did, and she was exactly who I needed on my side during my whole pregnancy and the birthing actual day. And yeah, it was like my daughter just brought in all the pieces of the puzzle just for her arrival. And it was like she was just behind the scenes, bringing everything together and making sure everything was ready for when she arrived. And everything was. And it was such an incredible experience. And then to have her now in the physical, actually manifested in the earth realm, has been incredible to just see her and feel her and everything that I was feeling about her, before she even came into my life in my womb. Yeah, it was exactly that. It was the same energy, the same essence. It's just been an incredible experience, and just the depth to our connection is unreal. And so I really wanted to share this piece and this part of my journey, because if you are going through it and you think that maybe you're going crazy, you're not. Trust what you're feeling. And if you are planning to have children, and you want to choose to consciously connect to your future children, you can. It's all so possible. And I just feel like more and more people are going to be experiencing this. And so I really just felt so called to share this. And I just hope that you feel a little less alone on your journey, and know to keep trusting yourself, keep trusting the guidance that you're receiving. This video is quite long. I'll see when I edit it how long it'll actually be. I hope that the sound was okay, because there's like a lot of construction happening around me. But anyways, thank you so much for sitting down with me today and listening to just my journey with my daughter's soul and how she came into my life. And yeah, if you're planning to go down that path, oh my goodness, it is the absolute best, absolute best. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you in my next video soon. I'm sending you so much love.